All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2015, and this is Before the First Cup of Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Thursday! It is 32 degrees, blue skies, and sunny. I think spring has finally sprung. Spring. It's actually wonderful. It looks much warmer and nicer outside than it is, but I have the door wide open because I need some fresh air at least. I mean, even the air was too cold before to breathe, so it's very pleasant having spring-like conditions, even though it's making all the snow like a solid brick of ice. Once it all starts to melt, it becomes a huge hunk. But I think over the next couple weeks or so, the temperature is going to stay warm, so we should be out of the snow soon. All right, guys. So where do we go today? Hold on, I gotta find the right mouse. I have 3 mice and 3 keyboards on this desk, and sometimes I grab the wrong mouse. All right, so I wasn't sure really what I wanted to do today. If I was gonna stick with the Hillary Clinton thread, because it even goes way deeper than Hillary Clinton. I have all these pieces that I dug up about the State Department, just all the dirty dealings, but I don't know if I really feel like doing that. I mean, politics just, honestly, over the last, I can't even say 6-7 weeks, I haven't given two shits about politics. Has not been exciting me mentally. This DARPA stuff sure does, though. And I just saw something that came out of RT from Tsinghua, Tsinghua University in Beijing. Footage released on Tuesday by researchers from Beijing's Tsinghua University in China showcased their latest futuristic invention, a self-powered liquid metal motor. And people go, oh, hey, that's cool. Self-powered liquid metal motor. Till you start thinking about the implications. With their new invention, the researchers hope to create an intelligent morphing robot similar to the T-1000 shape-shifting killer robot from the hit Hollywood film Terminator 2. Now you go, oh, that shape-shifting metal robot. Yeah, that one. So go, China. Don't worry, though. It says the researchers said that their robot would not try to wipe out humanity, but instead would be used to study environmental changes and may even have medical value. Well, I don't know. Do you trust them on that one? It's kind of a scary thought. What they did was they embedded this video, though, so I'm going to have to try and find this outside of Facebook. I hate when they embed videos into Facebook and not just share it from YouTube, because it makes it very, very difficult then to share it outside of Facebook. So, talking about China, so all right, we touched on China and robots, so those are 2 little threads we can start pulling on today. One thing I do want to pull on is China, because there's a couple interesting things that I've seen going on here. I saw Prepper post a few stories last week saying that there were some new billboards going up in China announcing their, and I never remember the name of their new, the petrodollar that they want to launch on the world, the new trading dollar. It's the yuan. Hold on, let me see if I can find Chinese billboards. There are these big billboards that Prepper was posting pictures of in China that supposedly were going up announcing their monetary system. Yeah. Oh, renminbi, renminbi. However you say that. Hold on, we're gonna try it. Renminbi. All right. Announcing the renminbi. So here we go. We'll pull this up. This was March 4th. It's on Zero Hedge. Oh, and of course Alibaba, which is one of the hugest product supplier. I don't even know what they are. A massive, massive Chinese distributor, Alibaba. This guy's a billionaire. The guy who owns it, and he is. I'm just saying under Alibaba.com, China Billboard manufacturers, Alibaba.com. You know, everything's stopped now that I'm trying to open up anything about Chinese. Come on. Oh, and the web page is not available. You know, I just love being told by the ability to get there what I can see and what I can't. I got to tell you, it really is starting to get a little frustrating to me when anything, even the tiniest bit controversial, just doesn't load. Last night I was digging into Pakistan nuclear weapons and terrorists. So I'm sure they probably went beep, 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 beep. Turn her off. Too much information. Come on. All right, hold on. I'm going to have to. This is the worst. When I got to launch a whole nother computer, my fingers still aren't working right. All right. Well, it seems YouTube uploads have been having some massive issues too, where they have been rejecting or just not properly loading anything. When I open this other machine, there's YouTube video manager open, and I'm seeing that there were two rejects from yesterday, and there was one earlier. All right, anyway, the Chinese buy billboards announcing the renminbi as, quote, the new world currency. Now, if you remember, not too long ago, the Chinese had opened up their stock market to global investment, and that kind of happened without very much fanfare, but I saw a few stories on it. And basically, at its head, I mean, their stock market went crazy. And of course, everybody wants to find a place to make money. And even though China's not doing as good as we think it might have been at some point in the past, they're still doing much better than us, I think. You know, at least much better than our real numbers. How's that? They have a huge millionaire base. I wish I could remember where I saw that story. I don't know. I've been doing like so many off topics now. I'm just very overwhelmed as far as where I've been putting information. But I was just reading a story about the Chinese billionaires the other day, and there's massive numbers of them, number one. And number two, oh, here's the How to Live with a Billion, but I'm trying to find the Chinese billionaire. Number two, they're all part of the government. Which, surprise. But like the thing that killed me is that they had all these different branches of it, you know, because it's like the People's Republic of China. And so they have all these huge, almost like congressional councils or whatever, with thousands of people that are sitting at a table negotiating ideas or whatever. And they're all freaking billionaires. And in the video I was watching, and damn it, I wish I remembered where I had played that from. In the video though, they were showing how, I mean, it's like the who's who of rich elbow rubbers in China are all now a part of this government, and they were questioning like, how could you be for the people? And you know, the one guy's like, I grew up poor and I made all my money. So I don't know. I highly doubt, though, that the billionaires in China who are the self-made billionaire entrepreneurs are looking out for the peasants in the rice paddies. Okay. Just doesn't seem, that isn't how it quite works. So it's not much different over there than it is here. I guess China is actually, wow, I got a lot of shit open that I'm not using here. So I'm trying to close all this stuff up. Um, there we go. I don't know. Anyway, it sounds like it's almost like it is here. I don't think the Chinese have any more or less morals than us. And remember, when the carrot gets bigger and the dollar value goes up, sometimes the moral compass goes down. Maybe not, though. I'm not going to accuse the Chinese of having a lack of moral compass. But if their pollution problem and the swapping out chemicals in children's toothpastes or melamine in dog food or in baby formula to make a few extra pennies is any indication, I would say, yeah, back up the truck and pay attention. So, anyway, we got all these billionaires now that are part of, even if it's just an illusion of some sort of republic, that are all legislating, sitting at not one but two different councils. And we have these billboards going up announcing the Renminbi. I could never say this. Renminbi. Renminbi. Sorry, my mouth moves before my brain does this early. So let's read what it says. When I arrived to Bangkok the other day, coming down the motorway from the airport, I saw a huge billboard and it floored me. The billboard was from the Bank of China, and it said RMB, new choice, the world currency. We know that they've been lining this up for a long time. They've been talking about it. I have talked to multiple people who know what's going on an economic perspective, and they've all told me that no, China doesn't have enough gold. Well, guys, I think I found their evil plan, so hold on. Now, you know, too, the Chinese people have been buying up gold like crazy over the last couple of years, too. And they've encouraged the populace to take their savings and buy gold. Gold and silver, though, we were just looking at the prices the other day. They've gone way down. I think gold was like 1,200 an ounce. And was silver only like 15? Because I remember it was up around 38 at one point, but I think silver was down around 15. So if that's the case, now's the time to buy more. JJ, if you're out there, I need to come find that coin store. I still want to get some of those junk silver coins. Always good for trade or lots of things. All right, anyway, so this guy gets off a plane. There's this huge billboard, and it says RMB, the new choice world currency. Given that the Bank of China is more than 70% owned by the government of the People's Republic of China, I find this very significant. And this is the People's Republic of China that have all of these billionaires. And I mean, it was a huge number. If I find a clip, maybe I can do a quick search or two while the clip is playing, see if I can find that video that I watched the other day. But there was a huge number of billionaires, and it way eclipses. Actually, I think it might have been on the Pigmine channel, so I'll see if I can find it. It way eclipses the number of billionaires in the United States. They got some cash flowing over there. All right, let's finish the story. It means that China is literally advertising its currency overseas, and it is making sure that everyone landed at one of the busiest airports will see it. They know that the future belongs to them, and they are flaunting it. And it's true. The renminbi's importance in global trade and as a reserve currency is increasing exponentially, with the renminbi trading hubs popping up all over the world, from Singapore to London to Luxembourg to Frankfurt to Toronto. Multinational companies such as McDonald's are now issuing bonds in renminbis, And sovereign governments are issuing debt denominated in renminbis, including the UK. Almost every major global player out there, be it governments or major multinationals, are are positioning itself for the renminbi to become the dominant reserve currency. But there's one thing: nothing goes up and down in a straight line, and China's in deep trouble right now. The economy is slowing down, and the enormous debt bubble is starting to burst. And yes, Hecty was in chat the other day, and it said that China is experiencing a big housing bubble like we had. I think Canada is next, they were talking about. So this is pretty interesting because they were positioning themselves, but wait. Because I got dropped a story the other day and I was reading this story and I was like, oh, do you get what the implications are on this? So hold on, let's read this first. Okay, but here's the thing: nothing goes up and down in a straight line. China's in deep trouble, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people, including the richest man in Asia, are starting to move their money out of the country. Yeah, aren't they like moving it to Detroit and buying up all the houses? So while the long term trend is pretty clear, China is becoming the dominant economic and financial superpower, and the short term is beginning to look a little bit rocky. We talk about all this in today's podcast, which I don't know even who this is writing this. This is out of Zero Hedge. And oh, look, there's a podcast titled Here's Exactly How You Can Profit from China's Short Term Unwinding. So, one of the things that some of the people that I know that know more about this than I do were talking about, though, is that China's currency could never become reserve currency because they didn't have enough gold to back it. Now, anyone who knows that we came off of gold backed currencies, was I just hearing someone talking about in the 70s? I didn't realize it was that far long ago. And we've been doing just fine. But one of the things that's been putting a damper, we have Ron Paul, and now there were some congressmen. I think it was even that Feinstein, Feinstein, calling for a Federal Reserve audit. And they're going, uh-oh. But then we have all these other countries going, hey, yo, we want our gold back. And we're going, what gold? Oh, you mean that gold? Okay, well, hold on. It's out being cleaned. And they're playing hide the pickle with, where's the gold? Wasn't it Venezuela who came back and demanded all their gold? There were a bunch of countries, actually. Venezuela's on our shit list again. We're putting more sanctions against them. But anyway, getting back to the gold thing. So check this out. So, a friend of mine drops me the story the other day. And says, "What do you think of this? $10,000 for one of these?" And I was like, $10,000 for what? The only thing that I could think of that you might be forced to spend $10,000 on would be a car, and even that would make me hurt. I'm not good at spending money. But there's no consumer product. I would be like, yeah, let's blow 10 G's. So this is a story out of an Australian publication. And it's titled, actually, I'm not even going to tell you what it's titled yet. It's a story about the new Apple Watch. Oh, what did I do that for? The Apple Watch. I mean, people are so dumb. Consumers are so dumb. People that, back in my day in the 80s, I was just such a slave to commercialism. All my shirts had to have alligators on them, and my jeans had to have orange Levi tags on the butt, and my sneakers they had to be leather, and had to have a big white swoosh down the side. And it was the only way I was going to be happy. And even if that meant for school clothes, I only got 3 shirts, 1 pair of jeans, and a pair of sneakers. That was good enough for me. It was horrible. Like, how did I get sucked into that? And like, it was so important to make sure I had this label on my clothes. So that was like the 1980s version. They used to call us preppies back in those days. They should have called us idiots. Feeding the corporate machine with slave labor. But, fast forward now 30 years later, and now it's your gadgets that make you cool. Anything goes with clothes now. Anything goes with tattoos, hair. It wasn't like that back then. We had to have perfect mullets. Every hair in place with hairspray hard and crunchy. I had a nice mullet. But, now anything goes. But what sets you apart from your friends are your gadgets. And so Apple, of course, well, I'm not even going to watch this, but the video finally started playing. This 3 days I've had this article up and it hasn't played yet and it started playing. But anyway, so Apple, if you actually, we were looking at their stock the other day, and all my years I was working in tech, we each had our own divisions that we worked in. I was in the systems group, and then they had the networking group, and we had the sound and multimedia group, and I'm trying to remember of all the different groups. We had the Apple group. I don't know. I'm sure we had lots more, but we all had like the different technologies or different vendors that we focused on. And my Apple guys sat in a little dark, creepy corner, and nobody ever bothered them because, back in the mid 90s, Apple was still kind of a joke, and nobody really bothered them much. And I remember there were only 3 guys over there. But they always say, ha ha, I have like 10,000 shares of Apple. And we'd be like, yeah, worthless Apple stock to wipe your butt with. I'll tell you what, we were looking at stock the other night when the story came out. And Apple stock back in like 1985, I think it was, or maybe it was 91. It was pretty far back, but it was like 51 cents a share, 47 cents a share. And now, I thought at one point I saw it up over 150, but maybe it split. That's why. Because it was around 62, maybe? I don't know. I shouldn't be talking out my ass. This was a few days ago. I looked it up, but I'm only at a quarter cup of coffee, so you have to excuse anything that comes out of my mouth when I am uncaffeinated. It's very difficult for the connection between the fingertips, the mouth, and the eyes to all work together. Oh! The hell, yeah. See, I thought it was over $124.24. It's been up $2 now, and this is because they had some new whatever they just announced. That's why we were looking the other day, because it's like, oh, we should see what their stock is. They have another something. But yeah, if you go to the max, I just went to the Google stock ticker and searched Apple stock ticker. Yeah, 1981. February, let's see, 6th, 1981, 51 cents their stock was. And fast forward to March 12th, 2015, and the current price is $124.25. And remember, if you had splits in there too, like you would start with 10 shares and it split, depending on what the split is. I had one stock that did a 10-1, but that was a reverse, so shh. So in a reverse 10-1, I had 100 shares. I ended up with 10. If it split the other direction, a 10-1 splitter, you could start with 10 shares and end up with 100. But yeah, so those guys that we used to point and laugh at and we made sit in the dark, crusty corner, and we're always like Apple geeks because we were the computer geeks. Well, I bet they have the last laugh now because they're all probably sitting on a Hawaiian island somewhere retired. But anyway, back to Apple. So this Apple hysteria in this decade has been ridiculous, and their stock prices probably since 2006, 2005 is when it really started to pick up. They got to like $6 a share, and then they went up a little bit more by like 2008. They were $25 a share, and then it just kept growing from there. And like how I am kicking myself. My husband, he was an Apple guy when I met him. That's all he ever did. He was a designer. That was his thing. And he kept saying, we should invest in Apple. We should invest in Apple. We should invest in Apple. And I'm talking that was like the early 2000s. We should invest in Apple. No, wait, in the early 2000s, it was $5 a share in March 24th. And I was like, who wants to invest in Apple? Apple's just a loser. Talk about like eat my words. He won't let me forget that, by the way. Even at $5 a share, it's 125. So, all right, let's get back. Anyways, I'm talking about China and gold. And you're like, Julie, you're just going off on this Apple thing. Okay, well, a lot of the Apple manufacturing is happening where? In China. They got all these Chinese factories. Um, it's a large corporation. I'm going to guarantee you that somewhere in there, if they're doing lots of business in China, it's not like China is a big business friendly country. I'm sure that the Chinese government comes around with their inspectors and probably sits down with the executives of Apple and has conversations. Well, so get this now. Let's get to the title of the story. So they are working on these new Apple Watches. And like I said, it's not anything new. We've seen Google and Samsung. You know, this is something we've been waiting for a while. They're going to do biometrics. They're going to do the smart home thing and link you up and connect you up to everywhere. Actually, there's a big project going on right now. When we watched that Regina Duggan video back 6 or so months ago where she talked about access to your computer without passwords and you could swallow a token pill and have your superpowers as you wave your arm and things will open for you. Well, DARPA's got a big project and it's all about passwordless access to things. And they're working on it now where it's way beyond biometrics of a thumbprint or an eye scan. They actually are going to be using these watch things, and they were even talking about that. And, you know, I mean, the fact that all the manufacturers are coming out with them now, you know that this is going to at some point be standard practice. But they're going to use these watch things that not only can take your pulse and track all your movements and your heart rate, your perspiration rate, but they can monitor like your saunter. So you always seem to walk, you know what I mean, in a certain fashion, or you talk in a certain fashion, or you type in a certain fashion, and maybe not always the same, but over a timeline of being surveilled, there tends to become a pattern that then they will assign to you. Well, they're actually looking at doing these passwords based upon like your whole person scan. That was kind of frightening. So anyway, all the manufacturers are coming out with these smartwatches that are going to be able to spy on you internally and externally. We even read when we were doing the nanotechnology stint that in regards to Google has that entire lab that they're financing, over 100 doctors there, and they're working on their longevity project with nanotechnology. What they envision is nanotechnology in your blood to be able to diagnose disease. And actually, another brand new story came out about that, to be able to diagnose disease. And the way they were envisioning it is that as the nanoparticles pass through your blood and crossed underneath this smartwatch that's on your arm, it will be reporting back what it finds. So don't think that this is just a smartwatch or this is just an Apple Watch to be cool because I'm going to have an Apple Watch. Okay, there's a way bigger agenda here. And this making it cool, playing the commercialism card, which of course Bernays was responsible for this from the very beginning, but they've just sucked in the youth way worse. I mean, I was bad. I would not wear clothes that didn't have a label on it. Like, how dumb is that? My sister, she'd be like, screw that. I get $100 for school clothes. I'm going to go down to Goodwill and get my dollar a pound sale for school. She literally would come back with garbage bags full of clothes for school. My sister didn't give two shits about labels. She used to take my dad's razor, his electric razor, and shave both sides of her head. So she had like this mohawk thing and dyed her hair bright glowing orange. God, that was like in 82, 3, 4. That was a long time ago. But, you know, she didn't give two shits. She didn't need the label. But me, I had to go to the mall. And I had to get my 3 alligator shirts and my 2 pairs of Levi's and my Nikes. That was it. And that I would be happy with that. So anyway, all right. So now that I've established all of this groundwork, now I'm going to read you the title of this article about the Apple Watches. So there's going to be three versions. There's going to be one that's like a sport version that's around like $329. And then there's going to be one that's like a deluxe version that's around $529. And then there's going to be the king version. I don't really know what they're calling it. The luxury. That's made out of 18 karat gold. Now, an 18 karat gold smart Apple Watch. Everybody's going to be lining up this Christmas. They want $10,000 for that 18 karat gold Apple Watch. And you think, oh, who the hell is going to pay $10,000 for an 18 karat gold Apple Watch? Well, there's a lot of rich people. And there's a lot of stupid people. And Apple's got a lot of global reach. So I'm going to say at least a good number of people. But check this out. So now what if this is very successful? I'm not going to say it's going to be because I really think it's going to be a big flop. But what if it is very successful and they sell hundreds of thousands of these things or millions? Here's the title of the story. Apple set to buy 1/3 of the world's gold for luxury Apple watches. Did you just hear what I read? Apple is set to buy 1/3 of the world's gold for luxury Apple watches. Now, I posted this on 2 pages since my friend gave it to me the other day, and it hasn't gotten more than 5 clicks because everyone's like, who gives a fuck about the Apple Gold Watch? But if you people would stop for 1 second and read a headline accurately and then go, what? Apple is setting out to buy 1/3 of the world's gold to make a watch. Now, what do you think that is going to do to the global gold market? And how interesting the Apple factories, a whole shit ton of them are in China. Just saying. Well, that's what I say, bullshit. But, I mean, would they put out this business plan? Like, oh, let's make this $10,000 gold watch was going to take 1/3 of all the world's gold to do it. I mean, first of all, I find it odd that a corporation, especially a rich one, could just like make this decision that they're going to buy up 1/3 of the world's precious metal that many of the currencies are supposedly based upon. But second of all, what would happen? I mean, let's say maybe it's not Apple this time, but let's say like Alibaba. He's a really rich entrepreneur in China. Let's say one of these big, rich Chinese corporations decide one of these days that they're going to buy up all the titanium. Or they're going to buy all the oil. I mean, we saw a couple years ago, they have all these reserves of food and they had all this money and they were buying all the food. So anyway, I don't know. You guys think it's bullshit. It probably is bullshit. But I'm going to tell you the fact that a corporation, I'm dropping that in the chat, a corporation can come up with some cockamamie idea. And the thing is, it's not a nobody corporation. It's Apple. Apple's had great success. For a corporation the size of Apple, it's not like they're a bunch of bumbling idiots either. They've had some great business successes. For them to come out and decide that for the part of their business plan with this new product rollout, we're going to buy 1/3 of the global gold. I just hope that there's no deal going with China. Because like I said back about a half hour ago in the show, one of the reasons like I said, I've talked to multiple people who know more about the Chinese economics and the renminbi than me. But one of the big issues as to why one of my friends says that the renminbi will never become the global currency standard was because China didn't have enough gold to back it. So I don't know. Maybe China paid Apple enough money for them to say, hey, guess what? Us as a Chinese government can't go after a third of the world's gold, but Apple, I got this great plan. And I swear to God, we got thousands of billionaires here. You know how many of these $10,000 watches you're going to sell in China? We got thousands and thousands of billionaires. They'll buy 5 each for Christmas time. All you got to do is get a third of the world's gold to China, and we promise you a seat on that committee of the Republic. I mean, who knows, people? All I'm saying is for a corporation to be announcing they're buying a third of the world's gold, like out of the blue, and no one seems to notice, and it's all in the name of consumerism, there's a problem there. So, I don't know. Say all you want. That story is one of those stories. You know how I said, like, look at the things that make you raise an eyebrow and go, huh? That was one of those stories that made me raise an eyebrow and go, huh? So, all right. I think I'm skipping all the Hillary Clinton shit today because I really don't care. Speaking of Venezuela, and here, maybe, let me just make sure I turn off the player here. Speaking of Venezuela and biometrics, there's a good tie-in, but I gotta remember my name and pulling my Skype. Here we go. And it's ringing. Venezuela's been on the shit list here, and I think I saw very recently we put them on under some more sanctions. And you know that they've had all kinds of shortages. People have been freaking out. Toilet paper is one thing that's been really hard to get in Venezuela. Well, now it's going into place. Here we go. And wait, I'm going to get back to the Apple Watches. This is one more thing I want to say.
Pulgar. The president of Venezuela demonstrating on national TV how to use a new fingerprinting machine.
Nada, pues, y listo. Y yo puedo ir.
From now on, every trip to the supermarket will require fingerprint scans. Venezuelans buying even basic goods will have to both show ID and place their thumbs on these machines.
20,000 captahuellas se despliegan en esta fase.
Nicolás Maduro says his government will distribute 20,000 fingerprinting machines in the first phase. More will come. It's an elaborate move to prevent hoarding. Venezuela has suffered from chronic shortages of basic food staples like milk and eggs for years. Even toilet paper is scarce.
Vamos a concentrarnos en el trabajo, pues.
The president blames scarcity on unscrupulous people who sell products subsidized by the socialist government across the border in Colombia at much higher prices. He also accuses the opposition of waging an economic war to destabilize his government. Meanwhile, there's new diplomatic tension with the United States. After announcing last month Americans will now need a visa to enter Venezuela, the White House sanctioned 7 top Venezuelan officials for human rights violations and corruption. The situation in Venezuela, President Barack Obama wrote in his executive order, constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States.
Bang! Yeah, those are the magic words to get you on the shit list. Oh, national security. Biometrics for your fucking groceries. Can you believe this shit? And I'm going to tell you something. So, like I was saying about in the 80s, being in this consumeristic mindset with my alligator shirts and my Levi's and my Nikes, you know, they're doing the same thing to the kids today. My daughter came running down the other day, and I got to tell you, I'd seen the story about the gold Apple Watch like 2 days before. She comes running down, Mom, Apple's got a new watch. Oh, my God, I want one. Well, first of all, for the baseline unit for $300, get a clue. Not going to happen. Dora watch for $10, maybe. But think about this. she is just so excited, and she's like, guess what, Mom, they allow you to pay for things, and you can scan them, and when they're on your arm they could, when you're exercising. And I'm like, but honey, that's exactly what we're fighting against, is all of this tracking and bagging and tagging. I said, don't you realize they're trying to make this a cool tool so then they can start integrating this surveillance into your daily life so you don't even notice it anymore. But it's going to be hearing everything you say, and you're going to be waving it. She's like, yeah, but they were showing this video where like you could use it and wave it at your car and your car starts, or at your front door and your front door opens. And I said, yeah. So what happens the day that you say something or do something that whoever's watching doesn't like, and they decide that they're going to turn off your bank account, or they decide that they're going to disable your access to your car or to your home? Then what? She's like, oh, they would do that? I'm like, well, maybe. We're not quite there yet, but I would be cautious in just jumping on the bandwagon with these cool gadgets. Now, whoever thought we'd be seeing biometrics for buying groceries? And here we go. I got to get back on Brandon, because he had done a series of stories over the last 3 years in regards to biometrics globally. And I think at the last count, there were like 11 countries, and India had been one of the hugest. There were millions of people that they had pulled into their biometrics plan. And that was all in conjunction with IBM. Again, ding, 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 the Watson program, remember? So I don't know where that's at. But anyway, just be aware. I mean, this is really closing down all this, for convenience sake. Technology is going to bite you right in the ass. Oh, the miraculous cures because we're curing fucking cancer. Just inject nanobots into your bloodstream is not going to work out well for you. You're going to be a generation one guinea pig. And speaking of guinea pigs, generation one in Guinea, they now have injected a whole shitload of the first people with one of those experimental Ebola vaccines. And they had all these guys on camera going, well, I felt a little sick in the beginning. I was like, run, Guineans, run. All right, let's play the rest of this clip before we run out of time about Venezuela, biometrics, and food shortages.
President Maduro counterattacked by blasting President Obama for the executive order.
Se ha equivocado, presidente Obama.
You have made a mistake, President Obama, he said. You have decided to fall into a history pit. When the people of Venezuela remember you in the future, you will be remembered alongside Richard Nixon and George W. Bush. Terrible for Latin America and the Caribbean.
Did he just wish Obama into a pit? I think I heard that and equated him with Nixon and Bush. Woo! Good company.
This is not the first diplomatic row between the two countries. Last February, the United States kicked 3 Venezuelan diplomats out of the country after Venezuela expelled 3 American embassy staff, accusing them of promoting civil unrest during violent and deadly riots in the South American country.
All right. So
that was the end of that.
Hold on, I gotta kill this Skype. All right. So anyone interested, I'll just drop that one for you into chat. That was from yesterday, I believe, or the day before. All right. We're almost out of time here, which really sucks, but there were a few stories that I found. This is out of a publication that I think Hecty originally dropped me something in this publication, and I posted the story, and I still had it open in one of my 5,000 tabs that are always open on all 4 of the computers that are running here with my research and crap on it. And I started seeing stories down the side of the page, and I was like, oh, look at that one. Ooh, look at that one. And there was all kinds of great stuff in regards to nanomedicine. This publication is called Hacked, hack.com. Great name, too. Title of this story is, and we heard all about this. Ben Swan came out on RT probably 2 months ago, and we had a clip about it, about the new nanobots in your blood. Remember? To search and destroy cancer. Let's check out this one. Nanomedicine Revolution 2015 human trial of DNA nanobots. Dr. Ido Bachelet of Bar-Yan University announced that the first clinical trials may soon begin on the nanobots he has developed to fight cancer. The nanobots, which can be injected into the patient, can identify and kill cancer cells without affecting healthy cells. Yet that is the promise. Medical nanobots are programmable, cell-sized machines that can be introduced into a living organism where they interact with each other and with the cells of the host to perform monitoring and repair functions. So remember, this next generation of monitoring and biometrics is going to be a watch on your wrist, but they're already, and we were worried about the chip. I'd be worried about the nanobot. I think the chip is already passe. They had all kinds of issues with rejection where it was forming like sacks around the chip when they first were testing that back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Even in the animals, they ran into issues, but most certainly in people they did, and they put a stop to the testing on that for a while because then they were afraid it was going to form tumors. But now, with all this RNAi technology and nanotech and the biotech all being in bed here in this big fucking orgy of their biopharma, biowarfare, synthetic revolution to patent everything and take it over, I think they got it down. Medical nanorobots are programmable cell-sized machines that can be introduced into living organisms where they can interact with each other in the cells of a host to perform monitoring and repair functions. So far, the robots can recognize a dozen types of cancer, including leukemias and solid tumors. Early tests on animals were promising, and Dr. Bachelet is optimistic that the clinical trials can soon begin. In a short video clip recorded at the event organized by the British Friends of Bar-Ilan University, Dr. Branchak confirms that a human patient with late-stage leukemia will be given a DNA nanobot treatment. Without the DNA nanobot treatment, now remember when I've been talking about this mad freaky science gone mad, who do they always go for? They always prey on the dying people, on the indigent, on the ones that have no other fucking choice. But when they're there kneeling on their knees begging for someone to save them, they hold out their hand with the glowing key and they say, I can save you. Just become a guinea pig for my psycho new technology. It just makes me sad. If somebody's, I don't know, I can't get into the ethics of all this, but this is just so wrong. We knew it was going to be cancer because that's the one dangling carrot that the majority of us would jump on. We've wanted a cure for cancer for so many years. We waited and waited as we saw our family and friends and loved ones and aunts and uncles and grandparents all fucking die from this shit that we probably ended up getting from all their pollution and food additives and shit they've dumped in the air, water, and soil. But now they got a cure. It's the psycho new synthetic biology, DARPA funded, mad science gone mad. It was never approved ethically for people. But, some kind of an emergency opened the doors. And now, these people are dying. They're going to be dead anyway. So it's ethical, right? It's just, it's very bothersome. It's very bothersome that they prey. They prey on people with desperation. And people who are desperate will do desperate things. It says, it confirms that the patient with late-stage leukemia will be given the nanobot treatment. And without the DNA nanobot treatment, the patient would be expected to die in the summer of 2015. Based upon animal trials, they expect to remove the cancer from the patient's body in 1 month. What? How are they going to do that? Well, that's the promise of the nanobot, that it can directly target your cancers and keep all the other cells healthy. These robots, quote, are going to scan every cell in his body. And cells that we recognize as leukemia cells, the bots will destroy specifically without even touching other types of cells. And judging from what we saw in animals, that person is going to recover. It's not science fiction. It's already happening. We published 2 papers, one in Science and one in Nature Nanotechnology. This could revolutionize everything we know about drugs and medicine. And again, here's the thing, everything is a double edged sword. You know, my friend that I don't agree with anything on, we had a really hot discussion a couple weeks ago, and it was all about the stuff. This is like something that interests both of us greatly. You guys know it's my red button beep, 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 beep issue. I mean, I can get psycho over this stuff. But the reason I get psycho over it is because biology is being usurped, and the people that are steering the ship are not good people. Things get used for evil means. That's what I'm against. I'm not against the technology. I've been a technology buff my entire life. I've been a science fiction freak since I was a little kid. I love this stuff. The promise of the future is what I've always been waiting for. But this wasn't the future that I saw. This dystopian surveillance. You're never going to have 1 minute of peace or privacy. That's not what I foresaw. That one instant you have a thought. By the way, they're talking about doing that, erasing your memories when you sleep again. There was another whole story about that. But them having the ability to have control over every cell in my body? Hell no! That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. At some point, we're all going to have to make a choice, you know? It's whether you're going to conform or not. And we're going to be like, this is what that RT clip was talking about, I am certain, about the human 2.0 within the next 30 years. Because these nanobots can go in and get rid of any malady that you have or fix any broken DNA strands or repair any damage. Would you do it? Would you do it if it allowed you to become 500 years old? Would you give up every ounce of autonomy to become part of the hive? And remember, they've been testing all that swarm technology. We will be like the Borg Collective. You know, this Internet of Things that they're all working on. Cisco's running all kinds of ads now, so that means it really has moved out there into the business space if Cisco's putting money into a large marketing campaign. But Google's been talking about it forever. DARPA, that Regina Duggan, it's all about the Internet of Things. It is putting your appliances online. It is putting your cochlear implant online, right? Your bionic arm. It's everything getting an IP address and being able to be seen on the network. All right, let's read a little bit more. Besides cancer treatment, Dr. Banchett hopes that within 1 or 2 years, his teams will have a spinal cord repair working in animals and shortly thereafter in human. And what I'm wondering is, you remember a few weeks ago we read about that Italian doctor who had announced that within the next 2 years they were going to be able to do head transplants, like physically sever a head from a sick body and put it on some replacement body and fuse everything back together. And I was like, wow, when did we get that technology? Where have we been doing all that research to hack heads off and put them on new bodies? Well, maybe this is what he's talking about. It says within 1 to 2 years, his team will have a spinal cord repair working in animals and then shortly thereafter in humans. 2 papers are referenced by Dr. Banchett. One is called A Logic-Gated Nano Robot for Targeted Transport of Molecular Payloads. That's in Science. And number 2, Universal Computing by DNA Origami Robots in a Living Animal, and that's in Nature Nanotechnology. And what's very interesting about that title, the DNA Origami Robots, is that is the technology that we've been watching very closely that they discovered at MIT back in 2011 when they were working at that Weiss Institute on building the swarm technology RoboBees. They were building them all by hand at that point. And then they came out with this new method for being able to make these tiny little nanorobotic machines, and that was almost like an origami. I don't know if I'll I'll drop this in the chat. There isn't much more in the story, but I'm running out of time here quickly. And I keep forgetting there was one like little point I wanted to add. And 3 times this popped into my head, and then I started talking more, and then it disappeared. So we might have to hit it tomorrow. There's DARPA actually announced too. I think we'll have to do this tomorrow because I had a bunch of stuff. You know, I get my DARPA scrapes every night, and there was a whole bunch of new brain implants, and just like the Matrix, they're going to now be able to upload learning. This is this new one. The future of learning. Nanobots will hack the brain. I mean, what do you guys think of this stuff? It's just unbelievable. Here's another one. Legal consulting firm believes artificial intelligence could replace lawyers by 2030. You know, like that's the best thing I've heard about nanotech and artificial intelligence is this, you know, replacing lawyers. So anyway, yeah, one day scientists may be able to erase negative memories in your brain while you sleep. Of course they'll be able to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, guys. And then Google, of course, you know, they bought those 8 robotics firms. And they've been having this DUPA, I almost call it, DARPA Robot Challenge with all the universities and these unwitting intelligent engineering students participating in the human apocalypse at some point with the robotic revolution. But hey, it's all in the name of fun, and they're giving away a few $1,000,000 for this contest. But Google, they bought one of the robotics companies. Atlas, they actually allowed everyone. They own Atlas. That was Boston Dynamics. I think it was Boston Dynamics. They allowed all of the groups, I think there were 8 of them, to continue using the Atlas robot. But there was this other robot that was actually way more advanced. And again, I'm down to 30 seconds, so we're going to have to hold off until tomorrow. But it was way more advanced, and they totally pulled that other robot out of the competition. The Pentagon is in love with it. They want to be able to use it. Google is saying, hell no, it's not going to become part of the military-industrial complex, and you guys are not going to get your hands on it. So there's a little bit of a fight brewing between Google and the Pentagon. I thought that was interesting. All right, guys, make sure you have an awesome Thursday. Kevin Blanche is live up next. We have tonight, Thursday night, so make sure you stick around. Chuck Ocelli is live at 6 p.m. Eastern. This week's Behind the Woodshed with Hal Anthony at 8. Double Cross with Drew and Chuck live at 10, and Anti-Media Radio with S.M. Gibson and Diedrich Young at 11. All right, guys, we will catch up with you tomorrow for Friday, which is even more awesome. Hopefully it'll be sunny and warm here. So everyone have a great night. I'll hang around, and we will catch up with you later. Take care.